My name's Murray Saunders. I'm the director of our online PhD programme in higher education research, evaluation and enhancement. We're deep in the heart of the Department of Education Research here. And joining me, Cheryl on my left and Paul on my right. And I'd just like to ask them to say just a couple of words about their connection with the programme. Cheryl?
So I'm a student in Cohort 1, PhD in Higher Education, Research, Enhancement and Evaluation, and I'm also the Cohort Rep.
Thanks, Cheryl. Paul?
And I'm Paul Trowler. I teach on EDS 845, which is about policy and change processes in higher education.
Thanks, Paul. I mean, we're here so that we can get, if you like, the students' perspective on the experience of doing the first part of the programme, which is a structured learning part of the programme. After 2 years, they go on to do their own dissertation. But we're interested to hear what Cheryl's got to say, and she's going to share aspects of her experience and also speak to some extent from the perspective of her representative role as a student rep. What we'll do is just box and cox between us and ask various questions, and we'll try and make it as natural as we possibly can. I think, Paul, you've got the first starter for 10.
I have indeed, yeah. Can you just tell us why you chose the programme and this particular programme, Cheryl?
Well, I was ready to start back into education. I graduated with an MPhil about 3 years ago, and I was ready to definitely start at doctoral level. I work in an educational setting, so obviously I wanted to align my role with a doctorate. It wasn't really an option to perhaps look for a studentship. I wanted to I love my job basically, so I didn't want to give that up in order to go and study full time. So the programme actually affords me to have the best of both worlds in that I get to do the role that I love and I get to study as well.
And the online side of it, did that particularly
Yes, that was
you?
a particular attraction. Never done it before, but I kind of felt I was at that level where actually it would be very beneficial to actually have that distance learning, and what that affords is to be able to kind of manage and negotiate your own time and out of the confines of class time or expectations to actually come to campus. So definitely a big pull and definitely works. I think the split of the part 1 and the part 2 for me as well, coming from a health background and a psychology background, I've been jumped into a sociological kind of paradigm, and I think having that structured guidance in the first couple of years, I can already see now that is something that is really beneficial.
Thank you.
Was there anything that really challenged your expectations, or was it pretty much as you thought it might be?
I don't know if I actually had any expectations. I think I just came into this with I very quickly got a sense that we were already being well looked after from the point of application. But I don't think I necessarily had any expectations. I'm quite open to what kind of experience it was going to be. If anything, it is far better than I could have probably ever imagined. So yeah, I've got absolutely no complaints about the nature of anything and the format. Everything seems to work perfectly for me. So,
if you were to identify aspects of the programme that you found most enjoyable, the bits that you really like, and what you get the most out of, if you like, what would those be?
I think it's the way that we can negotiate our own learning, and I really think that's a key element. With the support and guidance, obviously, of you guys and the other tutors, I feel like we're very much being given the empowerment to research and learn new skills and practice and theories, and kind of aligning it at that doctoral level, I think is really key.
It's quite a fine line, isn't it? Giving people enough freedom to pursue their own research interests, but at the same time, provide intellectual support for what they're doing. I think we found that quite tricky, to get the right kind of balance. So, from your point of view, did that, just from your experience, did that work out okay?
Yes, I think the fact that there's no, if I want to ask a question, I've got the confidence to just drop you an email, or, and the fact that you respond very quickly, and the feedback's kind of given really, really quickly. I think those are the things that you build on with your confidence that make you, no denying it, this is tough, this is a challenge, this is definitely something that I know I am doing, but I think it's the support with those kind of challenges and barriers that you guys seem to always be there that actually makes that quite easy to negotiate.
Just one more quick thing about the most enjoyable part. When you think about the various activities and fora that were available, just both at an individual level and working together with other people in the cohort, were there any particular types of activity that you've particularly enjoyed?
I think I've liked all the forum contribution tasks. I think I've never really done anything, certainly not at this level anyway, but I don't think I've actually engaged with forums in quite the same way that we have for the first part of the course as I have done. And I think it's brilliant. I think it really does. There's a sense of community there within, from me and the other cohort members, and I think it definitely works. I mean, when we first started doing this, there was a risk that there wouldn't be engagement, or there'd be a bias in that engagement, and more people would be doing it, or there'd be a dominant voice, and perhaps people who But I actually think they're a great leveler, and I think we've got international cohort members, so there's no barriers there for anybody to get in touch with anybody else. So actually, I think that it's a really good new experience to and actually you can do this whenever you like. The forums are always there.
So that's sort of asynchronous, to be jargonistic. That element.
Yeah, works. I think it definitely works, because we're all busy. Well, I have a full-time job, certainly, and I think to be able to access that information, there's a great cache of information there now already, and that's forum detailed as well, not just the resources that you've both put up there. So yeah, the forums definitely work for me.
Well, we've noticed, I think, that the tone of people's interactions seem to be really supportive, and we tried at the beginning, to kind of put down some of the sort of cultural markers, what we hoped people would be like online, so that they would be positive and constructive and so on. So that's quite good to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, it's brilliant to hear. We've tried hard to be as responsive as we possibly could, so it's good to hear you appreciating that. Also, the programme was founded on a number of pedagogical principles, and one of them was exactly to build the cohort, because the long experience we've had on another programme tells us building that cohort is so important, and it can be done online too. So it's great to hear you say that's worked for you. You mentioned challenges. If you were to pick one thing that you've found most challenging so far, Cheryl?
I think for me it would just have to be time. Sorry to be a bore there, but I think wanting to do really good field work and make sure that I've covered everything that I wanted to do and do that in my setting. That's I would say that's just probably a normal everyday challenge that most researchers will face. But I honestly and genuinely can't think that there's been any challenges. It's like I'm on the payroll, but I'm not. It genuinely is.
A couple of people said at the
enjoyable.
beginning, that they found the volume of reading and things like that tricky to get used to or to handle. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as soon as it was made clear that the mandatory requirements were X and Y, then I think people kind of stopped being so hard on themselves that they had to get through every single resource, for instance, Paul, that you put up, because that's just not natural. But when you're coming in from, as lots of the cohort members are from very different backgrounds, there's a big mixture of backgrounds there. I think there was just probably some little kind of challenge with what was expected, and that you can, reading is one of those things that you can't multitask. We have to read, and that's the sole activity that you do, and you not only read but understand and comprehend everything. So
yeah, that feedback was really useful for us, and as you say, what we did was to say, okay, well, these are the things you must do, and these are resources we've put for you, and use them if you can and when you can. and if you want to. And I think that, as you say, that did put people's minds at rest.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's quite tricky to move your mindset, isn't it? From if a tutor or a course puts something up, you think you've got to do it, and if you can't do it, you're cross or worried. So the idea that you're actually there to support with a range of resources and opportunities people's own research, and it's their choice. They can always come back to things, can't they? I mean, you're actually undertaking the work over a 4 or 5 year period, so there's stuff within those first modules that can act as a resource for a long period of time.
I think that's actually quite a comforting thought. A lot of the stuff that we did in the early weeks, I think that I had a definite sense that I know you did collate and synthesise some of our research interests, knowing that they were kind of in Word documents. But I think just to know that you've got those interactions and that narrative or text to go back to, it's quite comforting, because where you were at then will be different. So I think it is a really good resource, and I think that is another benefit of the forums that perhaps might be perhaps not as well known, or you might take it for granted, but there is a good cache, as I like to call it, being built up there. So
it's interesting because on the other programme, sorry to cut across you then, but there was a move to take out as time goes on, and all the participants said, no, don't do that, because there's material there, analyses and comments and stuff like that, which we find really, really helpful. So it's one lesson we did learn from that those 4 are going to remain open for as long as the cohort wants them.
You mentioned your current work. Is there a connection between what you're doing on the PhD and your work?
Well, as a research coordinator in a college-based HE setting in the north of England, then definitely yes, and that was one of the reasons that I picked I started to look at this specific programme. So yes, there's a heavy alignment there with the day-to-day roles and some of the ad hoc things that I get involved with, and I've got full support from my institution to study this. There's a good relationship there between Lancaster University, and I think they value. Paul, you were there, weren't you, a couple of years ago? So I think yeah.
Excellent. Good, and of course that's part of the rationale of the programme. So it's good to hear it's working.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the ideas was that professional practice, wherever it would be the source and the object of the research process. So, and it was a bit of a leap of faith in a way, isn't it? That doing something like this up here will provide resources for professional practice on a day-to-day level. And so, that's a tricky dimension, but we hope that that can work okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think the support is there, and the staff. I've probably met more staff in my setting than I would have done if I hadn't have been doing this. So there's that opened up that collaborative nature at a local level. Working with certain the participants that I've chosen might not necessarily have worked with them at such a productive level. And I think that's another great thing, that they're actually doing the field work and the research and the analysis and everything in your setting. That is more naturalistic. That is going to give your setting outputs, outcomes, recommendations, suggestions, papers. So yeah, it works perfectly. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about some of these experiences. If you were talking to a prospective participant, and we'll probably make you do this at some point. But
ask you to.
Yes, ask you to. Yeah, of course. What sort of thing do you think, based on your experience so far, would you want to say to them that would prepare them a little bit for the kind of experience that they're likely to have?
Well, I think if any participants, potential cohort members, would, there could be some anticipation about the nature. It's quite a new and brave enterprise, the whole kind of nature of the way that the course is delivered and the expectations, and that may be quite alien to people who've never, some people don't necessarily engage with technology, as in you've got to kind of have the frameworks, these technological frameworks set up, haven't you, to be able to join in fully and participate fully. So I think if anybody was concerned about any of those issues, they don't need to be. and I guess just trust that if you feel that the actual course content aligns to what it is you want, where it is you want to go, what you're interested in, then absolutely go for it.
Great. Well, I was just thinking about the very early couple of weeks, when I said, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, my machine won't play this and it won't play that. And one of the things I think we did want to ask you was whether you thought the kind of technical advice and support you got from here worked out okay, just to put people's minds at rest about that. If there are issues, then we could normally respond.
Yeah, I certainly haven't had any issues whatsoever. Always been able to get onto the forums. I mean, sometimes that's just unavoidable if there's, the connections are not there. But from my experience, the videos work great. The video lectures, the more formal lectures. Again, which you can go back to and watch time after time.
Well, that's a bit of a
you
trial.
Can stand it in my case. Yes.
But no, I certainly haven't been hindered at all by the distance nature of the course.
Oh, great, that's really good. Just to pick up this connection between working on the PhD through the program and your work, and possibly where you might go in your work. What sort of connection is there between doing this PhD and perhaps your future career?
Well, at the moment, being a research coordinator, it's quite a broad remit. Not sure where that necessarily fits within the institution, but at the moment I'm kind of interested in student engagement and personal characteristics. So I guess for the moment I'm concentrating on that, and I suppose I will see where that gets me in the future. Mm-hmm.
We were talking earlier about the badge, the exchange value of a doctorate.
Yes.
It's an interesting issue, isn't it? I mean, you seem to be focusing much more on the use value of it. Just what it can do to increase the effectiveness of your own work, rather than exchanging it for some future position or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about, I think it was a couple of days after I'd got my offer letter, and everyone was excited for me at work just purely because I was excited, and somebody said, oh, so it'll be Dr. Cheryl then, won't it? And I went, oh yeah. So for me, it's a training programme for me. I can't seem to identify any other training programme, so say, I don't know, qualitative data analysis, or, I've kind of done quite a lot of that for my MPhil, that requirement. So for me, this is just a perfect training program. That's how I see it. This is stretching, developing, sending me in directions that are quite challenging, but ultimately that will be absolutely for the greater good. And the title of doctor, I suppose, comes with that. But for me, it is about getting my practice better and becoming better at what I do.
Paul, do you want to do that sort of summary?
Well, just really to ask again for any prospective participant on the programme, what would make you recommend it to someone?
Probably got a little bit of a different experience maybe from the other cohort delegates, in that I've managed to get up here physically a couple of times for the rep meetings and so on. So I can grasp the collegial nature of the department. But actually there's a bit of a paradox there, because I find that even though we are kind of learning and co-producing at a distance, I probably haven't felt as such well looked after in comparison to actually studying in a setting in a major university. There is a definite different feel to Lancaster, and certainly to Educational Research Department, and that the support and guidance for me is the key element of why it is then easy or easier to go on and be challenged by the intellectual and theoretical aspects and the practical and practice aspects of what it is that you're looking at. I think that needs to come first, and it's certainly that would be I have recommended people to come on this course. I think there's a couple of people maybe have signed up, and that was probably the key message I wanted to give them, was that, you know, I can't say anything negative. It is genuine joy to feel as well looked after while studying at perhaps the highest level it is the highest level that you'll study at. So, win-win.
That's great to hear.
It is. Well, thanks very much indeed for sharing those thoughts with us. And obviously, it's for us, it's a good news story, which is lovely. But very grateful for you to come over, Cheryl.
That's fine.
So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Paul. It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you.